because I'm new to pretty much CTA, having joined the April cohort. Yes, I am Kerry's husband. My name is Matt Parkes. I've worked in advertising for pretty much 23 years now. The last 3 years, I've been working for a brand owner in the gambling industry for $1 billion corporation called BetVictor, primarily a UK brand. Prior to my 3 years in the gambling industry, I've worked for various different agencies. I worked for the Ogilvy Group in London. I've worked for the McCann Erickson Group in London, New York, Sydney, and Copenhagen. I've run my own creative agency. I've worked at a very large brand and design organization called Jones Knowles Ritchie that rebranded the likes of Budweiser, works with brands like Mars, Snickers, recently did the global rebrand of Dunkin', and I helped transform their business from being a 2-studio company in London and New York to London, New York, Shanghai, and Singapore, over 500 members of staff. When I joined the organization, I think they had won about 23 creative awards in the industry. In the 3.5 years that I was there, we then went on to win, I think it was over 145. Just through working with brilliant people, unlocking their talent, and doing great work. What I'm going to talk to you about this afternoon is a subject area very close to my heart, and it's something I did whilst I was at Jones Knowles Ritchie, and it's the subject of charisma and brand charisma. And I'm not really going to kind of run through what it is I do now, because what I do now is obviously I'm brand and creative director for a gambling company. And given that most of you are based in the Middle East and the UAE, you can't really gamble. So it's pointless me talking about that. But a lot of the learnings and a lot of the subjects that I've gained an experience in during my tenure in advertising and marketing, I've been able to use not only in my new job, but I'm seeing a very, very close parallel between coaching and the world of advertising, which is kind of strange. And it's actually helped me a lot in my role. So charisma, right? It's a very, very big subject. When I joined Jones Knowles Ritchie, their strapline was charisma by design. And I remember on my first day being there and going, that's interesting. Charisma by design. What is that? And funny enough, no one at the company could describe what they meant by charisma by design. A lot of it was kind of referred as, the gold dust that you sprinkle over a bit of branding, kind of like that Disney magic dust, but no one could articulate what was on their strapline. I said to them, this is quite concerning, because we're going out trying to get new business. And if we can't describe what the magic is that we do, why would a client buy into what we offer? So I said, we need to understand charisma and what our collective understanding of charisma is. So I went on a journey, and I was given quite a large marketing budget and a blank canvas brief to just go out there and discover over a period of 6 months, what is charisma. And the first thing I did is I went to a film agency, a film production company. I said, I'm going to need a camera crew for 7 days. And over 7 days, I'm going to interview various different experts in various different industries that I believe could help give us a clue what charisma is. So we interviewed a politician, child psychologist, various different behaviorist specialists, a zoologist from London Zoo, advertising people, designers. There was a fashion designer, a trainer designer from Adidas. And we literally set the camera up in a room, and we said to them, right, in 2 minutes, can you summarize what you believe charisma is? And for about the first 5 minutes of the B-roll, people were just sitting there going, I can't really describe it. And then suddenly, bang, it kicked in. And you couldn't shut these people up. For 30 minutes, they all had their different articulation of what charisma is and how people can benefit from charisma. And there was a level playing field, essentially, where people referred to a lot of famous people and a lot of I guess, musicians, actors, TV personalities that they said imbued charisma. And I'm going to show you a short little video now, if you don't mind if I share my screen, that I believe encapsulates what they were saying charisma was, but also should give you a bit of a steer as to what we discovered at the back end. So I'm going to play this video now, so bear with me 2 secs. Let me know if you can still see me on screen. Now, apologies if this has got music to it, so it's not set up for Zoom, it's kind of set up for a stage. So if it's a bit tinny, then I do apologize, but let's just see what how it comes out.
Getting on in the state of Mississippi. Papa was a copper and mama was a hippie. In Alabama, she was swinging a hammer. Price you gotta pay when you break the panorama. She never knew that there was anything more than gold. But in the world, does your company take me for? Well, you're a boy, make a big noise, playing in the street, gonna be a big guy someday. You got spot on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing, we will, we will. Shawty don't even know she can get in it for the low. So she's not a pro, it's okay, it's under control. Show me soprano, she's turning a handle. Baby, stop, so they come up and pop close. Girl, I'm new, so man, my whole body the same note. Show me your perfect finish, you got it, my banjo. Touch it to me, she looks like you do right at
So how about that for a starting video? Okay, so what I've just taken you there is a very, very quick journey over 3 minutes on what we thought charisma was, but actually how charisma is not a human trait. It could be shared amongst animals, it could be shared amongst brands. And essentially, what I discovered through this research project was there are 5 pillars of charisma. The first pillar, as I briefly shared, was vitality. So a brand that imbues the quality of vitality as a charisma trait would be Red Bull. Do you remember when Red Bull threw someone out of a hot air balloon, pretty much from outer space, for no other reason than just to get 8 billion eyeballs on their brand? Charismatic brands, they feel alive. They connect with you emotionally and instinctively. They're visually arresting and their effect is immediate. They do not grow on you. They simply attract you. They kind of magnetize you. The second trait of charisma is connectivity. A great brand to describe connectivity would be Nike. Nike imbue this quality of creating tribes where whatever your sporting interest is, you feel like you belong to a community of like-minded people. Connective brands, they kind of pull rather than push. They're instantly adopted and they become brands for life. So it's, if you're a Nike person, you'd feel pretty weird wearing Nike trainers and Adidas shorts. You kind of tend to navigate towards the brand that you feel you most connect with. The third trait is trust. A lovely brand that's been spanning nearly 100 years is Lego. Lego is a brand that's been trusted by many people, many families, for many generations. They're very authentic. They behave in a consistent way that's consistent with their values. They're constant, and as a result, they sometimes transcend logic. And what I mean by transcending logic is, I think Lego is one of the only brands on the planet that actually licenses their brand to the movie industry, not the other way around. So kind of normal practice would be the Batman movie comes out and they'd have a load of merchandising licenses available, and Lego would go, we'd like to bring out a Batman toy. With Lego, it's the other way around. It's like, we're Lego. If you want to be cool, if you want to play in our playground, you come to us. But they always stay true to what they are. Fourth trait is vision. A brand like Telsa is a great brand that imbues a lot of vision. They tend to be centered around what you may have heard as purpose brands that have a reason to exist. They want to change something. They're forever beta. They're always kind of moving forward. And the fifth trait is depth or mystique, depending on which region of the world you come from. A great brand that imbues lots of depth is an alcohol brand called Guinness. It's been around for a long time. People feel that there's, it's steeped in history. When people think Ireland, they think Guinness, but there's some element of mystique about it where you want to find more. They're richly storied, and you engage with them, and you feel like you intrinsically know this brand. So what we did was, when we discovered all these wonderful territories, I then went away and so I said to my boss, I think I've opened a Stargate, because I don't believe we ever knew charisma was so big. But I think we need some help, because if we can basically prove that charisma aids brand design, all of our clients and everyone we work with, we can do better brand design and better branding. So I did some research on the net, and I actually found that there's a wonderful lady called Nikki Owens, who's a charisma consultant. And she worked with the likes of Bezos from Amazon, Richard Branson from Virgin, and she actually trained CEOs to become more charismatic. So I gave her a call and I said, I'm from a brand design agency. I've recently been studying charisma. I'd love it if you can come in and have a conversation with us, because I believe we've unearthed something that could be of interest. And I think it crosses over with your world. If you're training people and coaching them to become more charismatic, as a marketeer and a creative, do you think I could potentially encourage brands to be more charismatic? Can I teach a brand owner to navigate their brand and dial up elements of charisma to make it more engaging to consumers? She was like, yeah, sure. So she came in to see me, and I'll never forget it. Hired out a meeting room in a lovely office in Camden. And my PA came to get me about 15 minutes before the meeting, and they said, oh, the charisma lady's here. I was like, okay, well, just tell her I'll be there in 10 minutes. She goes, no, she wants to go into the room because she's got energy wands. I was like, what do you mean energy wands? She goes, these metal sticks. She wants to see and feel and understand what the energy of the room is like. To which point I'm thinking, this lady's barking mad. I've got to go in, meet her, and get her out as quickly as possible. Went in. She did the wands. She said I had lots of charisma, which I was kind of pleased about. And I spoke to her and I said, how did you get into this field of charisma? I mean, how do you become a consultant? What I believe is one of the most charismatic people on the planet, Richard Branson. And she said, well, actually about 15 years ago, I was in the dock in court, and I was about to go down for 20 years. And there was this moment where I knew, or she knew, her whole life was in the hands of her lawyer, who had to convince a jury that she was innocent. And had the lawyer not convinced her, the jury, that she was innocent, she would have gone down between 15 and 20 years. And she said it was only as a result of that lawyer's charisma did he win over the jury. which kind of worried me a little bit because she's got the wands and she could have potentially gone down for murder, but I thought it was fascinating. So I shared these 5 traits with her, and then she opened up her laptop and she said, I've been doing this for 15 years, and what you've done in your 7 days of research, you've pretty much discovered the same traits of charisma. You're calling them pillars, we're calling them traits. I thought this is really interesting. And I said, so how do you train someone like Branson to be more charismatic? He said, well, I start off with a simple charisma questionnaire, a bit like a discovery session, in the fact that you just ask lots of questions and you kind of gauge where these questions, you know, it's a bit like doing the emotional intelligence test. It's hundreds of questions, but it gives you a scoring system. And without realizing it, you're scoring yourself in these 5 areas. So what I did was I borrowed her questionnaire and I said, I'm going to repurpose this and I'm going to present it to every client that comes in and tells me he wants a new TV ad or he wants a new rebrand. And I'm just going to get this person to just fill out this question to ascertain the brand's charisma level. Is it, you know, has it got lots of depth? Funny enough, we used to work with Guinness. So if you ask a Guinness person, the score would be off the Richter scale in lots of depth, but it may be quite low in another area such as connectivity or vitality. So what the client thinks is the problem actually isn't, which is why as a creative, you always say to people, don't tell me what you want, tell me what you want to achieve, and we'll go away and think about it. You've got to ask the right questions. And this is kind of what's ended me up in this field of coaching, because I've learned a lot on the art of listening and the art of questioning and really peeling away the layers of the onion, not like an interrogation, you're just finding out information. The difficulty with doing coaching now is for 23 years, it's drummed into you to ask the word why. Why do you want this? Why do you want this? Why have you only got £1 million? Why do you want to grow in North America? Why do you want to take a Western brand to China? Whereas you can't use why in coaching, so it's a little bit different. But the world of marketing has completely changed. And this is where I'm going to come on to, and this is what hopefully, I know many of you are coaches and you're using coaching in your job, but marketing, whatever field you're in, marketing, branding, you're your own personal brand. I believe there's a lot of key learnings. Back in the 1960s, a guy called Professor Edmund Jerome wrote a book called Basic Marketing. It was a managerial approach to marketing. In the 1960s, he came up with this theory of the 4 Ps. Everyone knows the 4 Ps. Anyone who's done business studies, it's kind of like product, promotion, price, and place. That was indoctrinated literally through many universities, many colleges. He had a fantastic new business line because he just kept giving away these books. And it became part of the global marketing syllabus that everything to do with marketing was centered around 4 Ps and identifying your USP, which is great until about 15 years ago, when people became in the marketing industry, started to really, really use social media and digital marketing and had a voice, had a 2-way voice where they could start to challenge these 4 Ps. Suddenly there were 7 Ps, then there were 9 Ps, and there were 15 Ps. You had people saying, well, about people, what about processes? 5 years ago, this word purpose came out and everything was about being a purpose brand and really standing for something. And lo and behold, these Ps kept building up. About 3 years ago, a blogger, a Norwegian guy, a marketing consultant called Peter Sandin, wrote a blog saying that there are now 44 Ps of marketing. And this is the problem with the world we live in today. And it's a massive problem amongst marketeers. And I would consider myself a marketeer. I'm albeit on the creative side. If we're not careful, we can massively overcomplicate things. The world is complicated enough. We don't need to make it more complicated. The role of a creative is to remove the layers of complexity to get to the root of the problem to help solve it. But it did get me thinking, how can someone sit there and go, there are now 44 Ps of marketing and they're going out trying to solve world peace with 44 Ps. And it made me think, all right, well, what P is more important than all the others? Because you've got 44. Surely by the nature of definition, if you took the Collins English dictionary and looked up all the P's, the most important one is priority, because it's by definition, a priority is the most important thing. Funny enough, in his 44 things, he didn't have priority. And I thought he missed a trick, because when you take the word priority, it's very reflective of the world we live in today. We're very disconnected. We live in a world that's become more and more connected primarily enabled through technology, social media, and a device in the palm of your hand can tell you how to sell world peace and what next week's lottery numbers are going to be. But that connection point has given everyone a voice, and it's given everyone an opinion, and it's given everyone a view. And this photo that you can see in front of you, this is a real shame, and this is what society's like at the moment. It's lots of people, friends having a drink, but none of them are chatting because they've got their own individual priorities. Some person's taking a photograph of what she looks like while she's out with her friends. If you're out with your friends, you're connecting with them. You're having those great emotions of a good time. But it really did get me thinking that I think if you can solve this area of how do we eliminate individual priorities, it could be quite rich. And I think the world would be a better place if we focused on what our collective priority could be. The image you see in front of you is obviously plastic. I mean, I think 2020 will go down as one of the worst starts to a year ever. We had oceans filled with plastic. We had Australia on fire. Now the world's on fire with, Black Lives Matters riots everywhere and, COVID-19. But now is a time where we've got to come together, where communication, we've got to start communicating. We've got to knock down barriers. We've got to think without barriers. And we've got to start focusing on our collective priority. So what's a collective priority? You don't need to overcomplicate it. A collective priority is a shared interest that complements an individual's priority. So if you work in HR, your priority is people. If you work in finance, your priority is money going in, money going out. Do what I do, where I work in brand marketing, my priority is the brand. But a collective priority is something that unites us. And let me give you an example. My wife's my number one priority. Harris was talking about Kerry. I met Terry. I met Kerry about 10 years ago, and instantly she became my number one priority. About 3 years later, we got engaged, got married in Tuscany. Fantastic. On November the 30th, 2018, our daughter was born, our first daughter, our own daughter even. And I kind of sat there and went, the whole time I've been with Kez, she's always been my number one priority. Now we've got this little bundle of joy. I'm like, it feels unfair to kind of relegate or delegate Kez down to my number two priority, because they're both equally important. But it suddenly made me realize that our daughter became our collective priority. Hopefully, touch wood, I'm still Kerry's number one priority because we knew each other before our daughter. But it really made me think having a collective priority is of equal importance as your individual priority, but sometimes it becomes a little bit higher. And that's what a brand is. A brand, no matter what business you're in, if you're a one-man band, if you're a consultancy, if you work for a corporation of 10,000 people, the responsibility of a brand does not just sit in the marketing department. A brand is a collective priority of your business. It's from the moment someone walks in your office, that experience of seeing what your office, how they're greeted by the security guard, the meeting room you're in, the content of the meetings, the tonality, the consistent way that the brand communicates touches multiple departments. We spoke about charisma, and I told you about the 5 traits. Charisma is a massive subject, and you always see a peacock associated with the word charisma. I did a bit of research into this. There's a lovely a book called The Charisma Myth, written by Olivia Fox Cambane. She talks about personal attraction, and she talks a lot about the peacock. Now, in theory, the peacock should be extinct. It's the most charismatic bird on the planet. And the reason why the peacock should be extinct is it uses its feathers as a means of attracting. When the peacock wants to attract the peahen, fluffs its feathers. But the sheer size of these feathers and the wings to get enough blood circulating through nearly makes the bird die. It takes all the blood away from the vital organs, and it can only do it for a limited period of time. Eventually it will keel over and die. So it's actually a bit of a weird one, because in theory all peacocks should be extinct by the nature of attraction. But there are a lot of traits that can be learned. I took these findings of the charisma study to the London School of Business. And I said, I think I've discovered something. I've been researching the subject of charisma. I've spoken to a charisma consultant. We found a common ground in these 5 traits. Using an interview and a questioning process, we can peel away the layers of the onion to identify what someone's true score is. And the London School of Economics turned around to me and they said, actually, we can tell you a lot more, because charisma is so powerful in branding. For a brand to grow, it must get noticed to be chosen. Whatever brand you are, if you're a service provider, if you're an electronics brand, if you're a sports retailer, your brand will only grow if it gets noticed. You've got to stand out from the crowd. This is a lovely outdoor ad that Dollar Shave Club did. The copy line's obviously, it's all in the moustache. I was going to say shave the world, but they've obviously hidden the H. This is a brand that's imbuing charismatic design in taking more leaning on kind of humor. But it stands out. It's different, very different from the likes of Gillette. For a brand, it must be distinctive. Here you've got one of the most iconic bits of luxury packaging in the world. Many recipients at the other end of receiving just the bag, this teal colored bag, start to smile. It's just through the use of color and a simple white bow. It's so distinctive from any other jewelry brand. Charisma is the ultimate source of distinction. Amazon are doing a lot of work at the moment, imbuing charisma through everything they do, from their customer service through to the final point of delivery. The fact that they've got a smile on the packaging reflects how the consumer feels, that warmth where, great, it's finally arrived. Charisma comes from the confidence of knowing who you are. You can only be yourself. Oscar Wilde said, be yourself, everyone else is taken. Brand charisma is celebrating and amplify what makes your brand unique. And I'm chatting to you as coaches. You are your brand, so you need to be different. You need to be distinctive. You need to be yourself, because it's being yourself that differentiates you from all the competition. How many of you have sat there and written your new business plans and said, right, we need a website. What should I write on my website? I'm going to go and look at loads of other coaches' websites. All you're really doing is you're following the design codes and the content codes of what other people have done. So you're putting yourself into a bucket that is just full of choice paralysis, and you need to extract yourself out. You don't want to be compared, because if you get compared, it will come down to the things that you don't want to be associated with, such as price. People intuitively follow charismatic leaders. We contacted Harvard Business School, Harvard University, and we shared with them the findings from the London School of Economics and the charisma study. And they said to us, actually, this charisma study you've done is very interesting, because 8 of the last US presidents have been elected purely down to their charisma. Their charisma is kind of like a magnetic force. It's like an aura that attracts people. They speak of a presence that marks them out as special. That there's a reason why when president-elects are canvassing, that they're connecting with people. You look at Obama. I personally think Obama, forget the fact that Obamagate's going on at the moment for his sins. I think he's a lovely guy. I think he connected with so many people in America. Bill Clinton, people talk about Bill Clinton as soon as he walked into a press conference, you could feel the hairs on your back of your neck rising. Trump, whether you like him or not, President Trump has got a lot of charisma. You know, it's There's a lot of people in America, and he convinced a lot of people to vote for him during the last US elections. So do not underestimate how much politicians use charisma. Charisma is also interesting. The Harvard Business Review revealed that charisma has been proven to aid choice and selection. They did something with the FTSE 100. They took the top, I think it was top 5 CEOs from FTSE 100 companies, and they made up a fictitious job. And they interviewed all these CEOs in front of a two-way mirror. They then put all the CEOs that were interviewing for a job in the same room at the same time and monitored their behavior. A behavioral specialist was in the room, in the other room behind the mirror, and they predicted with 100% accuracy who was going to win the task that was going to be set and who would get the job. And they wrote this down, put it in an envelope and put it to the side, and then they just watched their behavior, and they watched how the natural leaders stepped forward and came out, who took control of the room, who sat back, who had vision, who had depth, who connected with people, who was truthful. And it's really interesting. 87% accuracy predicting negotiation success. If you work in sales, charisma helps. Charisma, and this is interesting, we don't often talk about price as coaches, but we forget we're a service provider and we have to charge for our fees. And some people find the conversation of cost and price a difficult subject. I remember I've been in some of the discovery sessions, and I've seen people being questioned and having to talk openly about what do they charge. Charisma can take price out the equation. Do you know what separates? I'm not sure if in the Middle East you have a Lidl or an Aldi. You probably don't because of the region you're in. But in the UK, we have a Lidl and we have an Aldi in addition to Sainsbury's, Tesco supermarkets. And they're value discounters. What separates their champagne from one of the world's top champagnes is that little bit of barbed wire that you can see just behind that headstone. One's priced at about $35, the other's priced at about $15. In taste tests, the own label, blind taste test, the own label champagne won. When we revealed what the brand was, obviously Veuve Clicquot won, because people see the brand identity and the way that the brand behaves. I think Veuve Clicquot is the only brand that can get away with kind of turning up to a polo event with a Rolls Royce towing a Winnebago. I don't think any other brand could do it, yet at a polo event, kind of feels kind of right for Veuve. IKEA, often seen as cheap furniture. How many people use the word cheap when they see IKEA nowadays? I think very few. I think it's affordable, but look at the way that the brand's communicating around Valentine's Day. It's not saying it's £55 for the pair. It's used charismatic communication to communicate an occasion. Carlsberg is a brand I've worked on. I actually rebranded Carlsberg back in about 2012 globally. I was actually tasked to come up with a new line for probably the best beer in the world, which you can't beat. It's the best line in the world. So it was a bit of a waste of money for the client. But interestingly, there's so many craft beers that have hit the world at the moment. Carlsberg have not ignored it. They haven't tried to improve their product because their product's really good. It's just not a pale ale or a craft. So now they've changed their strapline to probably not the best beer in the world. It kind of imbues charisma. Budweiser, I've worked on Budweiser. Actually, 2014, I rebranded Budweiser we took the word Budweiser off the can and put America on the can because it wanted to be the most American thing. So we said, well, if you want to be the most American thing, remove your brand name from your product and put the Constitution, American Constitution. We printed it around the side of the can for a limited period. But they'd always called themselves the king of beers. If you want to be the king of beers, you've got to wear a crown. And that's what Budweiser does. It's die cut a crown on its ring pull. KFC, fast food chicken restaurant in the UK. Charismatic brands consider every touch point as media. Media is not only bought, media is what you own. Your website, your social media tools, they are your own media. Your delivery van is your own media. It's a point of communication that you own. But charismatic brands, they consider every single touch point. I love this campaign. This was an ad that came out the day after a London KFC restaurant actually ran out of chicken, which, bearing in mind it's a fast food delivery service or a fast food restaurant that only sells chicken, what's it really selling? And this was the way that they tackled it. They had an ad that ran this, looks a little bit like a swear word, using their brand identity, and just said, "We're sorry, we ran out of chicken. There was a problem with the order." That brutal honesty won hearts and minds. Sales went up as a result of it, and people embraced it. Burger King is one of the most fantastic brands for communicating charisma through everything it does. It does it through actions. They speak far louder than words. When many cities and many countries all around the world celebrate Pride, the way that Burger King did it is they focused on what's on the inside that counts. So you didn't know when you ordered this burger, you didn't know that it was going to reveal the Pride flag. It was just revealed, and you only need to look at Burger King's customer service on social media. They have about 5 million followers, and they react to everything, but they do it in such a humorous, charismatic way. You can't help but love the brand. Coca-Cola, you may have seen this floating around LinkedIn. It's last year. This is a campaign called Try Not to Hear This. You see these images, beautiful shot photography, and it actually triggers another emotion. It triggers another sense. You start to hear it. A very good friend of mine is probably one of the world's best photographers for working with brands such as Rolex, Patagonia, Nike. He's been Nike's photographer for 10 years. I challenged him and I said, do you think if this photograph here that we're seeing in front of us, these Coca-Cola ones, do you think a photograph could evoke smell through seeing an image? Have you ever taken a photo of something where you can actually smell it? Now, he still hasn't solved it, but I think there's a way that fragrance brands could do this. Coca-Cola talk about happiness. They've been talking about happiness for 55 years. They missed a trick. This is obviously retouched, but put a smile in your can to be a bit more charismatic. Charismatic brands create really impactful communications that can't be replicated. You instantly know this is a bottle of Coca-Cola from the shape of the contour bottle, but it's the coming together of different races, different creeds, united by one product. Snickers, obviously in a bounty pack, because their strap line is "You're not you when you're hungry." This caused absolute mayhem on social media, that Snicker bars were hidden in bounty bars. Apparently there was a massive fault on the production line, blamed on one individual that just wasn't feeling themselves. Charismatic brands are easily recognized and they always feel relevant. You intuitively know what this brand is. You know it's McDonald's. You know where you could see this sign. It's on literally a road sign, taking you to a service destination. When you're in their restaurant, you intuitively know, using their own product in a fun way, what they're saying. Nivea night cream, create a moon, beautiful ad. So why is all this relevant, and why is all this relevant to coaches? Well, just notice what the time is. So I'm going to have to fly through this. Our attention levels are diminishing massively. We now have the brand recall. The equivalent brand recall is our memory mass is less than a goldfish at the moment. It's about 4 seconds. I think John was telling us the other day there's between 2 and 11 million bits of communication our brain has to filter. We're at about 14,000 brand messages a day if you take into account social media. So we're constantly filtering what brand levels we need to, what brand messages we need to get across. One thing bit of advice that I'd like to leave you with is, too often brands reflect what they think the consumer wants to see. Really interesting, this images of Kendall Jenner from the last time there was an issue with Black Lives Matter with Rodney King. They very quickly developed an ad where they felt that if someone passed over a Pepsi, the world wouldn't be a problem. It nearly destroyed their brand overnight. if you copy the competition, you start to get associated as a generic. Okay, it dilutes your image and encourages competition, comparison with the competition. And what I mean by that is, you take these two fragrance brands, competitive brands, but they think the formula is to have quite a famous person shot in the middle of a desert with the product on the right hand side, pretty much looking the same way. Now, as a consumer, am I going to remember which brand's which? Never forget, the world we live in today, we're so connected. A consumer can make or break your brand with a simple tweet, post, like, rant, vlog, blog, or podcast. They have the ability to compare. When you're communicating and promoting your services as a coach, just remember you're always going to be compared to someone else that's in their search criteria. So stand out, be different, be distinctive. Think like Netflix do. Netflix and chill, it's now become an occasion. You sit there and you don't watch TV anymore, you watch Netflix. Final points. We think consumers expect offers and promotions. You think you should discount your services. If you discount your services, you're in a problem zone, because that discount will always be expected. Added value will always be expected. So be careful when you're looking at offers, price promotions. Don't run big win promotions. No one thinks they've got a chance of winning them. You need to think like a consumer would. We think consumers constantly want a better product or a service. That's subjective. You need to ask your customers or your clients how you can improve your products and services to meet their needs. Don't assume just because someone else has done something, you've got to do it. We think consumers constantly want innovation. I think the best innovation, it's not really an innovation. I think the best thing that's happened to us out of COVID-19 is video chat and the way that we're all sitting here now. Communication and coaching has become a lot easier. Embrace that, lean into it. All right, we're not going to be doing TV ads as coaches, but for some reason brands think consumers want TV ads. I've just spoken to you about Netflix. How many people actually watch ads now or pay attention to ads? What's the cost of an ad? Okay, some bigger brands tend to sponsor. It's very easy to get a brand association through sponsorship. Don't stick your logo on it. Logos don't change the world, ideas do. We think consumers want loads and loads of social media content. They don't. They want content that's relevant to them. You don't have to feel the need to be an entertainment brand. There are entertainment brands that they go to for social media content. Say something that's true to yourself, that has meaning and relevance to your audience. Don't just do loads of stuff thinking they want it, or following loads of people because you think you're going to get loads of followers. The truth is, everything you think your customers want or your clients want was expected by them a long time ago. And what they want is three things. They want confidence, they want clarity, and they want consistency. The only thing you ever sell in whatever you do is confidence. The way you do it is through clearly communicating and consistently communicating the same thing over and over again. These two politicians, whether you like them or loathe them, I don't particularly like either of them, but they are fantastic marketeers that communicated very clearly, consistently, with clarity. They both had a message. Trump, make America great again. Boris Johnson, get Brexit done. They understood what the people wanted and connected with them. And remember, great branding lasts a lifetime. View it as an investment, not a cost. The one thing that I would say to you is, logos don't change the world, ideas do. But be distinctive, get noticed, stand for something. Harris mentioned my wife earlier on. We've formed a new company. It's called Numero P. What you see on the left is our coaching brand, Numero P. That's the executive coaching side, the life coaching that Kerry does. On the right-hand side is Number P, and this is a brand, a global brand that I'm looking to launch probably in about 3 months' time. Our purpose, the reason why we exist, is to give 1 million people hope by helping them discover what their priority is, their Numero P. I'm going to leave you with one example, one final video, last couple of minutes, because I know we're conscious for time. that just shows you how I've taken 23 years of advertising. I found this lovely subject of coaching and this newfound skill and techniques, and how I'm going to slam together coaching and creativity. This is the sort of work that I want to be doing moving forward for the next 25 years of my career. So there you go. Hopefully, I'm just conscious of time because it's been the best part of an hour, but hopefully I've given you a little insight into how, number one, the subject of charisma and how big and diverse it is, and how charisma can help you as coaches to grow your business, to grow your own brands, and to really build more meaningful relationships with the people that you're targeting. Open for any questions. I've got loads more to present, but we've run out of time naturally. Happy to take any questions now.
So guys, any question for Matt or your comment? If not, question.
Well, I just want to say thank you. I learned so much. I was actually taking notes and everything. So that was really, and really to focus on charisma makes me just really want to go and find that research that you were talking about in that study, and really read up more on it, because it is so very important in order to really bring focus to yourself. So that was really phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Thanks. I think the turning point for me was chatting to a zoologist from London Zoo, and I went, how do animals use charisma? And he said, have you ever seen the elephants traveling through the Namibian desert? I went, no. He said, well, they're always following one elephant. And that elephant can't communicate and go, hey guys, I know where I'm going. It's over here. Here's the watering hole. Follow me. So animals are using charisma to communicate and build trust, because there's a reason why all the elephants are following that lead elephant. And it's such a wonderful, interesting subject. And I think it can benefit so many people, different cultures, everything. Someone's asked, have you started using this concept in coaching? I'm still learning to coach at the moment. I'm part of I've only been learning the last couple of months, but I have found, I know how to dial up charisma because I'm trained in it. I do it for a living. I found when I've been in difficult conversations with clients, coaching clients, not brand clients, I know where to identify and dial up areas of my charisma to open them up. How I want to slam together coaching and creativity is through the questioning technique. I think coaching, it's like a Jedi Knight trait. It's this ability to break down barriers through different techniques, enables you to get to the root of the problem really, really easily. That swimming example that Samsung developed. I mean, what's a mobile phone electronics manufacturer got to do with swimming? Well, they discovered that Paralympic swimmers who can't see are just fed up with hitting their head on the side of a wall. They train so hard and they don't want to get a bump on the head. So they went, how can we use our technology to solve this problem? And that came about through powerful questioning and really opening people up. And that's what I think I want us to take our brand forward doing, to say, how can we give 1 million people hope by helping them identify either their collective priority. Right now, I think there's a real need right now to unite a lot of people, but right now will be the wrong time to start addressing that problem because it'd be a quick fix. But I think through charisma and through coaching, we can help understand more common ground and make more meaningful more meaningful communication for purposeful brands, I think.
Actually, I want to thank you and really thank you for your presentation, your videos. From long time, I didn't see this, how this alignment gone with the topics and objective went to the coaching itself. So first, I want to thank you very much. Then I have two questions. One of them related to traits of the charisma traits. The fifth one, the depth. I didn't get the point really from the depth point. Second question related to be authentic and genuine. How this related to charisma? What do you think? Your opinion? Thank you.
Two very good questions, two very difficult questions. So I chat about the fifth trait, which is depth, and that's having a story, a heritage, a history. Sometimes as creative marketeers, to celebrate and amplify what makes you unique is your story, which is why advertising is narrative, it's storytelling. Depth and mystique is kind of multifaceted. They're richly storied. It's how Guinness was founded. It's Stella Artois. Why is Stella Artois served in a chalice glass? Because it's a serving vessel that a lager lout or a football fan would never drink in a million years. So you embrace it. It's a thing of beauty. And it's really digging into your roots and your history. If you haven't got it, you need to create it. You can't create a history, but you can create a story for what you stand for. And I think that links to your second question about authenticity. It's very hard to be authentic. Look now, I can't remember how many people are on the line. There's 11 people. Are we all authentic? Well, we're all coaches, so technically we're not, but we're all individuals and we're people, and people buy people. And it's kind of, sometimes you've got to look in the mirror a little bit and you've got to understand the fact that you're not everyone's cup of tea, but you are someone's cup of tea. And you've got to know who you fit, who you are for. And the best way to do it is to kind of think inch wide, mile deep, really zoom in and understand who you believe your audience is and who would benefit from you as an individual from being coached. I know that, well, I intuitively feel that I don't think I'd be a good executive coach because I'm creative and I've always got an opinion, and that's not what coaching is. But I do think I can help coach brand owners and marketeers. So that's kind of an area I'm thinking about dipping into. And I think that will make me unique because I can call myself a creative coach. Well, what's one of them? What's a brand coach? That sounds kind of cool. It kind of breaks down a barrier now that I can chat to brand and creative people without even doing anything. But it comes from the confidence of knowing who you are, I think, is what makes you authentic. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I'm sure the subject is such, a lot of people will have questions. So what I would recommend all of you is, please go on Facebook group. We will post this video there and the presentation. Matt, have you shared the presentation with?
I haven't. I can share it with you if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, Sanchit, you can share it with him and he'll post it on the Facebook group for all of you to view. And he can probably tag you in there. If you're part of the group, they can write questions and you can answer for them.
Okay.
We are at the top of the hour. Two things that I would say my takeaways are that every touch point is what was the word that you used? Every touch point is a media.
Media. Treat it as media. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was a great learning for me. And of course, the collective priority. Yeah, I say that people from EQ to IQ and IQ to SQ, which is social Q, and then VQ, is how people are moving. And that's really about collective. The world is moving to. And I think collective has got a really big meaning. We must do a lot of research on collective wisdom, collective thinking, collective collective coaching for collective. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of meaning that collective has, and they all draw some parallels to each other. And there's a great learning there. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
It was really amazing.
Thank you.
All right, coaches. Thank you so much. We will meet again next Tuesday. Same Zoom room and ID. Any question you have which are not answered, apologies for the time constraint. We cannot answer at the moment, but we will look at the questions on the post on Facebook group. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Matt, again.